Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Allie. It is late on Monday evening and today didn't go as planned. Okay, are we shocked? This is day 13 of the September series. If you're new to my channel, I'm uploading every single day in September, so that is why you're getting this messy video. I decided that this week I am going to be reading this short story collection, Bad Thoughts by Naida Alec. It's all about invasive thoughts, and I'm gonna read 2 stories of it every night this week, but I will get to that in a minute. I also read Blue Flag, which was very cute, very fun. I really liked the art style. It was like sketches. It almost looked like pencil. I read it on my Kindle because my library had the ebook, and I think I'm going to continue with the series. I'm still very new to manga, so I feel like middle of the line, but I enjoyed myself, so I find that a win. But I wanted to give you a little something juicier today, and I never ended up doing my mid-year freakout tag. It is September, so this is a poor man's version, me being the poor man, of the, 3/4 freakout book tag? What? So yes, I'm going to use the questions from the mid-year book freakout tag. Okay. My floor is just covered in all of the books I've read this year. So if I show up in a clip lightheaded and red face, it's because I'm bending over 100 times. That's what she said. Question number 1, the best book I've read this year so far, I believe, is Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. I had the time of my life reading this book. I was so invested. I woke up the next day just dying to read it. I wanted to quit my job so I could finish this book. And that being said, now I don't feel as close to it because it's been a minute since I read it. So I'm definitely going to reread it before the end of the year just to solidify it as my favorite. But yeah, this was just amazing. Am I supposed to synopsize or summarize, whatever that word is, each of these books? I feel like it would be too long then, but yeah, check this one out. Question number 2, the best sequel that you read. I think I've only read 2 sequels and one of them is my most disappointed. So I'm gonna put Heartstopper Volume 2 by Alice Oseman. I read all 4 of the published, volumes this year, and I had so much fun. So yeah, I would say this one. Question 3 is new releases you haven't read yet but want to. First, I have Cleopatra and Frankenstein by Coco Mellers. This is like literary fiction, sad girl book, I believe. And I don't know, I feel like I'm gonna vibe with it. I've heard some really good things. So if you've read this, let me know if you liked it. Also, City of Orange by David Yoon. This one I've literally heard nothing about. And I really don't know what it's about myself. It's this sort of sci-fi book where this man ends up in an unknown landscape, injured and all alone. And I don't know if he has no memory or he's just hallucinating like crazy. I think it's sci-fi. Maybe I'm just picturing Dune right here. But it's just so intriguing and mysterious that I'm dying to read this book. Plus, it's beautiful. For most anticipated release, actually, it comes out the day this comes out. This video is published, I mean. Bliss Montage. I've been dying to read this. The cover is beautiful. They are short stories. So pumped. And then if I'm looking like farther into the future, I think Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo comes out in January. I'm really excited for that one. I'm definitely gonna have to reread Ninth House. Number 5 is Biggest Disappointment. And that's definitely Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. I have a whole rant review vlog on it. And really, I just got so angry and disappointed because I love the first book in this duology so much. You'll have to watch that video for more of my thoughts, but I really detested that one. But yeah, definitely having high hopes for it kind of made it more disappointing than others. And unfortunately, I think Book Lovers and Weather Girl go on there too. And I hate that these are all romances. I'm not hating on the genre. It's actually because I've loved these authors' previous works last year. They were some of my favorite books. But Book Lovers and Weather Girl were still very good on their own. Like I could separate my anticipation from the actual books. I think I gave both of these 3 stars, but yeah. I mean, I was hoping for a 5-star. Number 6 is The Biggest Surprise, and I think it would probably be Kate Daniels, the first book in the Kate Daniels series by Alona Andrews. I was so shook by how much I enjoyed this. I ended up giving it 4 stars and I picked it randomly. I just looked online for like fantasy romance and this one had really good ratings. And even though the cover was cringe and I was being judgy about it, I had so much fun. I feel like the closest comp title for this is House of Earth and Blood. Is that what it's called? Oh my God. Yeah, House of Earth and Blood. I just got to work out trying to get this out of my shelf. But also Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson. I actually read that this month, and I had high expectations for this because it just looked weird, but I had no idea I was going to absolutely fall in love with this book. So that was such a pleasant surprise. Number 7 is favorite new author, and that's kind of like a hard question. I don't usually think about someone as my favorite author until I've liked 4 of their books, maybe. That being said, I've read 1 book by Julia Armfield, and I will read anything she's published. I think the only author I've read multiple things of this year is Niveau, and I gave them both really high ratings, so I think Niveau is up there as well. And also, okay, I really loved Out There by Kate Folk, and I've never read her before. This might be her first collection, but just because I vibed so well with the writing style and the content and just how weird this was, I will read whatever she publishes. Number 8 is newest fictional crush, and I know who it is. It's Alum. I haven't been this excited for like a love interest in so long, as that's one of the reasons I really enjoyed myself reading this book. Alum raised his head and looked at her. His pupils dilated. Ink filled his gray eyes into black, widening with a hunger that both terrified and elated Faye, rippling up the fine hairs of her arm and the back of her neck. Honestly, though, I think it's just because he could cook. That's a huge turn on. Newest favorite character. There are a couple favorite characters in this one. Lehaba, loved her. Danica, loved her. Are you sensing a theme for those of you that read this? I also really liked Alex, our main character in What Moves the Dead. I thought they were hilarious, but also smart. And to get that out of this tiny little book was very impressive. I also love Ronke and Wahala. And I can't think about a character without thinking about Kaikei. This whole book is just me loving her. Number 10, a book that made you cry. I cry so easily. Just depending on what time of the month it is, honestly. The wind will blow sideways and I will start crying. I cry when I'm happy when I read. I cry when something is confusing or that makes me mad in a book. But the most I've cried and the most I've remembered it is definitely Reminders of Him with Colleen Hoover, mostly because I have mommy issues. But yeah, actually this was probably one of the biggest surprises of the year too, because I've read 2 of Colleen Hoover's other books and I gave them like 3 stars. They were really engaging and I read them really quickly, but they weren't anything to write home about. And so I picked this up like expecting not to like it, and I gave this 5 stars. Number 11, a book that made me happy, and I think it was this cute little book, Fangs. I don't think it's technically a graphic novel, it's more like a comic, because there's no plot line. It's just about a girl who's a vampire who falls in love with a boy who's a werewolf. It's like if Edward and Jacob fell in love. That can't be the only one though. I mean, Heartstopper made me happy too. I squealed so much in that. Oh, and this book made me very happy. Number 12, most beautiful book you've bought. I mean, a lot of the ones that I've already mentioned, like City of Orange, I think this is so pretty, but also Fangs because of the sprayed edges and like the cloth cover. But ones I haven't mentioned yet, I really love the cover of Hell Followed With Us. I think it looks so cool. Also, Cultish. I love this cover. This is nonfiction, all about cults. And then, of course, probably the one to win this is Ain't Burned All the Bright. This is actually poetry and artwork, like the whole thing. So just the whole book is absolutely beautiful and really powerful and really touching. And then books I need to read by the end of the year, all of these. These are the ones that I'm trying to get through during the September challenge, or the September series. Oh my God. I'm adding a question because, I don't know, I like reading gross stuff, and I'm sure like every year I'm probably gonna be continuing to read weird and gross stuff. So surprise question number 14, what is the grossest or most disturbing book I've read all year? And it's definitely The DeLorean. Don't recommend. Actually, I don't think I recommend this book, but I weirdly loved it. If you read this, pretend I didn't say that because it's pretty fucked up. All right, guys, that's it for the quarter year book freak out tag. I'm gonna put in my clip of reading these 2 stories and my reviews of them or a synopsis of them right after this. So here you go. I'm switching things up with my camera, so if it looks weird or if it just looks different, just bear with me, please. I finished the first 2 stories in Bad Thoughts, and it's very funny, but also kind of sad, and in that way, it sort of reminds me of the tone that Fleabag has. Fleabag's obviously better because it's Fleabag, and there's like an overarching story that makes it a little bit more memorable. But this definitely has that sort of very funny and randomness, sort of sexual and perverted, and also a little bit sad. They're definitely not plot sort of stories, so I will tell you the generals of what it's about. The first story is called My New Life, and it really is just about this girl who's just contemplating her life and like what is the meaning of it, but she also has this best friend. And they talk about random shit all the time about like, I don't know, they talk shit about people, but they also talk shit about like concepts. They just sound like kind of privileged white women who don't know what they're talking about and are very lonely and sad. Our main character though is like married. You can tell she doesn't really love her husband. She's more in love with her best friend. And it's just funny how it's written. So her and her friend are talking about their problems, and she says, "Sometimes I wonder if her problems are even real at all. My worst fear is that she's making them up just to relate. Actually, my worst fear is being eaten alive. I don't know where it came from, but I think about it often." Oh, and our main character has this weird obsession thinking about penises. And so she's telling herself she's at a work event with her husband's friends and her husband. And she's thinking to herself, do not touch any penises. But once I thought it, I couldn't stop. I imagined them as wind chimes waiting to be struck. I just stood there, not touching anyone's penis, quietly frightened by who I am and what I'm capable of. The second story is called The Intruder, and it's actually very similar in tone to the first, like our narrator. She has even more paranoid sort of thoughts. She hears a noise outside her window, and she just makes up this whole story about how someone is out there. And so to prepare herself, she is just randomly going to the store and buying supplies, like rubbing alcohol. And then she ends up going on a date with this guy she doesn't like, so that she can act it out, like her being attacked. It's weird and funny and sad. So some funny things in this one. She's trying to think about all the people she's wronged and who it could be, like stalking her. One time I lost my cousin Anthony at the mall and pretended I hadn't for an entire day until he showed up at his mother's doorstep the next morning, missing a shoe and with a speech impediment that would never fully fade. He must be in his early 20s now. She's like obsessed with thinking about this intruder. She says, I searched for him without knowing who I was looking for. In order to do this, I had to pretend that every man was him. And if that man was holding a baby, then he was the baby too. Certain women were him, and so were pets and insects, as well as planes flying overhead. And actually in the first story, the woman, the main character, she sees a guy following her, and it's that kind of feeling of she doesn't know if he's following her or not. But then she goes to her friend so that she can tell her that she was being stalked. Anyway, I personally love these, although I'm glad I'm doing them in 2-story bits, because the 2 first stories, though, I really like the tone. They were pretty similar, so I could imagine it would get a little bit repetitive if you just binge this book. But yeah, excited to continue in this, and be sure to check out the rest of the week's vlogs for more very funny and weirdly insightful little creepy stories. They're not creepy, but they're creepy in the way that they are those kind of weird thoughts you have that you don't say out loud. I love that. All right, guys, that is it. Thank you so much for watching. I had so much fun doing this tag. I don't know why I didn't want to do it earlier. I didn't think I read enough books, or I didn't have enough strong opinions, which is clearly not true. Please let me know any of your thoughts below on the books mentioned. Oh, let me do my stats real quick. Hold on. Okay, my stats for day 13 of the September series. I read 42 pages of Bad Thoughts, and it says the Blue Flag was 224 pages. I'm gonna count it. I feel a little bad, but not really. If you are wildly offended by me counting manga as pages, just let me know. So total today, I read 266 pages, and then for the September series, in total, I've read 3,012 pages. And I finished 9 books now. I'm so glad I did this tag. I'm glad this video wasn't a failure. As a little tease for what you might see tomorrow, I'm thinking these 2 books, okay? All right, guys, I'll see you then. Goodbye. Oh, shit.